Welcome to Wireless Teaching. I'm going to answer a question before some of you make a decision, and that's, I don't know the answer to who's going to have what. I do know that the plan this summer is for 6 new projectors. And the new projectors would be the double, triple brightness and wireless capabilities. If you have an old projector that you want switched, I think you need to be one of the 6 strongest beggars. That's not a... If you really are going to use it, you should be asking this summer for the classroom that you're in and ask again. Because in my opinion, from seeing how it works, I don't know that there is a for sure plan for what has to happen first or second or third or whatever. Okay. Secondly, if you're in a classroom that has TVs, any HD TVs, it will work. You just need a Miracast dongle that attaches to one of the HDMI slots in the back of your computer, or back of the TV. And all of the TVs we have on campus that are HD, you can wirelessly teach to that. So if you have a TV, you're already a yes. If you have, if you're in a couple of the rooms, like Boggins has a room that it will work. He has a newer projector. If your projector has HDMI on the back, it will work without a new projector. If you're a no and a no and a no and a no, I think the number is 6 this summer. Matt.
So then the rooms that don't get the upgrades, it would be best for those across to keep their older computer and laptop so they can use the traditional docking station we had
No,
in the past.
that's a good question. If you're in one that doesn't have the ability to wirelessly teach, you still have the ability to hardwire your new computer, and it will act like your old computer. If you had a smartboard in there, you can still touch the smartboard. If you wanted to have a longer cord, a longer USB cord, you can walk with a cord. And that's not as terrible as it sounds. I mean, I'm going to demo like maybe you'll be in the back of the room, but for most of you, just the idea that I can walk from here to here in proximity control at my device is a step better. Okay, so you're definitely going to get a no if you don't ask. You might get a no if you ask, and you might get a no if you ask twice, but ask if that's something that you like. I know several people asked already for a longer cord, so that either, for one of 2 or 3 reasons, the current docking stations are almost all on back walls, and they're facing the wrong way. So I'll pick on Paul for a second. Paul just said, can I at least have a cord so that if I want to put it on my podium can go wherever I want, and I can teach from whatever part of the room I want? And the answer already was yes. So that's the best, worst option, if that makes sense. It's a good question. Before we have you try it, I want you to just ponder this. And I don't anticipate this will be the full 50 minutes. I think we'll go about half an hour, depending on how long it takes for us to let you each try it. But I think you do need to think before you get into a ton of lesson prep. Classroom management. Does having a device and being able to walk in a different way and teach in a different way change your seating arrangement? Does it change where you want to teach from? Does it, some of you would say, I don't have an option. This is how my room is set up. But I'm looking for a little bit of feedback. If this is you teaching and you have the ability to walk around, what does that change or make you think about? I'll go first. In my math room, every desk is traditionally rows and other stuff like that. When I tried to teach this way, I had a hard time navigating through the rows, especially as I got to back areas and it's pretty tight. I'm not a huge dude, and I'm in the back of the room and I've got a student 2 inches from me on the left and the right. I just wanted to be able to see devices and students in a variety of different ways. So I had to think, where are my most common walking paths? pause again, even though most of you don't want to raise your hand. Matt, what are you thinking?
I'm just thinking about how I like to have the students sit. Normally, it's a semicircle, so everybody can see each other, because most of my classes in the classroom actually are discussion-based. And then when we do break out, a lot of times we do small groups, and we have the old school single desk, which are nice, because then you can, move them around.
Sure.
So, for me, I'm just thinking of how I would use the circle and then the small group situation, but I can make it work.
Even just the question of, are you comfortable teaching from the back? Do you touch the board or the whiteboard all the time? And the answer isn't, you're right if you go to the back. The answer isn't, you're right if you always stand by the naughty kid. But I think you should be thinking about, you have other options, even if your room isn't souped up and ready for August 27th. Dan?
With the students now with their own devices that they can bring, sometimes it's more convenient to go to the back and see what they're actually doing on their computers. And
Sure.
devices.
I fully agreed. I think most of you have thought about those kinds of things. Really good point. Hey, it was very awkward for me for the first 2 or 3 times trying to teach from a different area of the room that I wasn't used to. I'm so used, like in a math classroom, I'm so used to, like, there's an example, I do it at the board. I've mastered the art of writing with my right hand on the board this way and my left hand this way, and proximity control from here, that it was really strange the first few times walking around in different areas, because I felt like I had to build pauses into where I needed to move to, and then I realized I didn't really have to. And that's the thought process I had in my head. Here's my explanation of how Miracast works. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. Some of you heard this already from me before. If you have the dongle on a TV or a projector or a dongle in a projector, it is not going through, I don't see a blinking, where is it? Oh, right there. You're not doing this kind of wireless teaching. You're doing directly to the projector. It's a little bit different technology than Chromecasting. It's a little bit different technology than Apple Play in the world of Apple. They all three do things differently, and none of them speak the same language. And that's on purpose so they all can make money, because they could all play nicely and it would work great. But anyways, so I'm going real time to this projector to here. That's why when I move my mouse or do different things with it, there really is no lag between this and that. Some of that awkwardness isn't there. I did put a more detailed explanation. Somebody came up with a really nice 2 or 3 page document that has, here's really how this works and how this works and how this works, using terminology I'm not completely familiar with, like PT, I get what point-to-point means, but I don't get it in the context of what they were talking about. The next big thing I think you need to think about, which I think fits with what we just did, is, so what are you going to wirelessly teach? And I should really maybe put it differently. Which application are you going to teach from? So let's hear the lay of the land. Boggins, if you're going to walk around and teach, I don't even know if this is you, but what program are you going to use most of the time?
Mostly I'm still PowerPoint
That's,
guy.
you don't have to apologize. I just showed PowerPoint. It can be pretty sweet. Somebody go in a different direction. Go ahead.
Prezi?
Sure. And I like that you brought that up, because a lot of times when I wirelessly teach, I still like to write on my board, but if I'm navigating through a couple places that I want them to go to, I don't need to be on the board to go to a couple places on the internet. If I want them to see something like, hey, on our Moodle site, at our Moodle site, when I'm trying to log in and various things, I want them to see, hey, I'd like you to go on our website so that you can see exactly what's going on. I'm walking around the room so I can actually see, are you actually clicking on what I'm having you do? So navigating through the internet, I think, works much better in the back or the side of the room. Anybody else want to chime in?
That's been the holdup, is I have to go over to my ball and chain computer in the corner and then try to yell across the room and then hope that you're on the page that I want you to be on for the 5 minutes that we're gonna do that before you're free to work on your own at your table. And so there's always that struggle point or that issue point.
Sure.
And I'd like to be circulating while I'm making sure you're where you're supposed to be, and then we can be efficient, not have somebody say, where was that?
Right.
5 minutes later.
Jeff, and then I'll check.
Stuff you were talking about in the last hour, using it, so you can have a Word document or PDF, you're going through an article, you're looking at a lesson plan.
I like that it's not every minute of every lesson either. Like for me, it's 15 minutes of 50 a lot of the times. It's 7 minutes of 50. I do traditional, I do not, if this is non-traditional, I'm not sure. But I do like the advice I've heard from several people. I'll take Paul's son or Jason Schmidt is two of them I've heard say, pick the program that you're familiar with and stick to it. Like, if everything you have is in PowerPoint and it's already modified the way you like it, I'm not convinced taking a whole summer to change them to PDFs so that you have 2 more tools to relearn over the summer is a good use of your time. For me, I have lessons that are in Smart Notebook. Even though for me, I know there are other ways to do the same thing, I want to demo this program for various reasons, and I'm not going to go away from it for all my lessons. You don't have to love the program. I don't even have to be convinced that it's the best way to do it, but I want to have different modalities with it. So have a program you like and stick to it. I have ways I can drag a graphing calculator onto this screen that I can't do on a different program, so some of the pros and cons, you get the idea. But I like this advice that's not me. What can you not do? I think most of you are pretty tech savvy. Just looking around the room, there's not a lot of naysayers. So it's you're not going to be able to use your projector with your students' devices. Maybe they have a Surface 4 or Surface 3, but that's highly, highly unlikely. So the idea that I've got this new projector here and my students are going to have a Chromebook and Chromecast to it, no. I'm going to have my students, they have an iPad and they're going to AirPlay to this projector, not with the current setup. Because once again, there's 3 modalities, they all live in their own world, and you have to kind of decide how that's going to work with it. Can you have a Miracast dongle and a Chromecast dongle and an Apple TV? Yes. But they all 3 kind of talk a different language. That's the frustration I've heard from somebody like Dan, like, I want to do this and then I want to do this, and they're on 2 different systems. Is there a good way to do it? No. Why isn't there a universal play? I don't know. I do know, but, right. But, go ahead.
Is the best solution to that dilemma, I mean, have your students working Google Slides and then they could use your computer?
Right. Well, I would say you can see where they are really nicely in the world of Google. I think another option that's very viable to you is this is a universal docking station for a reason. This is maybe just thinking about student presentations in mind, but at any time you could say, any device that has a USB, connect and I want to see what you're doing. So I'd like you to come to the front of the room, automatically syncs in so that this can go to the projector. So you'll have this and you'll have the Miracast technology. But the world still where it's like, Pete, you're goofing off. I know you're on Facebook. Show me what's on your screen. I don't have that yet. Now, I'll go back. You won't really even have that unless every student's on the same device. So if every student was on Chromebooks, you could do it a different way. If every student was on an iPad, you could do it. If every student was on a Surface, you could do it. But I think there's pros and cons to why to say we haven't said that's the main reason to do whatever it is. Okay, I'd like you to practice walking around first, teaching something with, yeah, just walk. You got 10,000 steps, Jeff? Let's get at least 6,000 out of the way. But what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to pick any of those 4 things. So your Moodle course, anywhere on the internet, an Office program, Drawboard PDF, Smart Notebook. I know you've already tinkered with it at your desk, but I'd like you to walk around in tablet or keyboard mode as if you're teaching and just kind of see how it feels when you're walking. I understand for some of you it's going to be a little bit of exercise, and couldn't I just do this myself? You could, but go ahead.
I have a question, and maybe this goes back to your last slide too. You said, I think, in the initial meeting that we had, the big reveal or whatever, that it doesn't stream videos well either. So, if I'm gonna stream videos, because we watch a lot of film, we analyze movement. And
So then I-
So then it would always dock it.
Yeah.
Or, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and it has to do with the bandwidth of Miracast.
But then it should be no issues.
Right.
Ideally.
So I told this right. I had no problem sending the NCAA tournament to my big screen TV in my basement. I don't know why that had less than sending a YouTube video.
But it shouldn't be a problem for our Wi-Fi
No.
because that's not necessarily an internet
Correct.
tracking station
Yep.
to stream basketball film or
Yes.
motor learning movement.
Right. I have streamed YouTube through this and had no problem. But I would put it at, you're looking at a 25% success rate, and that's not good.
And this switches, so on
Yep.
our other computer, if you tip it a little bit,
Yep.
or if you detach it, it has to be sideways, and then it
Yep.
has to be the other side.
So to answer your question that you didn't answer, on the right-hand side, if you swipe and go to the Action Center, you have rotation lock.
Yep.
You can lock it either way.
So I can run it this way, and it'll still show up vertically on my
Yes.
screen.
Yes. So right now,
It's up no matter
so
what.
right now mine is side no matter what. Because when I teach, I don't like when it rotates that it rotates. So I like widescreen, but
How far can we crank this thing?
all the way. Not all the way. You can get 160 degrees.
180?
No, you can't get quite 180. So I actually teach usually with it all the way like this because I like to hold with my left and right with my right. I don't know if this is my
Sign out before I could get it.
what? Pays to be left-handed. I think the cover, if it's your handle, while you're teaching, I like to teach with it all the way cranked up and hold the cover with my left and right with my right. You can disagree with me. There are things you can buy on Amazon that give you a handle of various types. It might be worth your time to look into it if that's what you like. When if I hold my screen on just the edge, my thumb moves too much and I start touching things.
I think they have a sign out. I already restarted. I tried that. I think I actually signed
And I actually found that after 2 hours, my fingers were sore. And I mean, not like you're hurting at night, but I mean, it was a different modality. So then the question is, can you get from one place to the next, the next? The reason I hold with my left and right with my right is you have to decide where your pen's going, if you're using your pen.
It's kind of nice with power plant, because then
You could have the presenter view,
you can thumb it,
right?
frame yourself.
Even on the internet, if you didn't know this already, the hotkey to go forward, so I'm just going to go to a couple places just so I go from site to site to site. So I'm just clicking on a couple places so I have, you can use the back and forward arrows like a normal browser, but you can also just swipe left and swipe right off of Chrome for sure. I'm not sure if you can on Edge. No. On Chrome, you can swipe back and right, and it'll go back and forth through the things that you've clicked on. It's not that you can't zoom and or go to various places.
touch either.
Is it letting you touch anywhere?
With the pen it does, and then my fingers.
I know that if some of the swiping or some of the clicking doesn't work, the age-old restart always has worked.
Microsoft Word has crashed 4 times on this thing in the last few years.
Word keeps crashing for you?
It's a dog.
Oh,
Has Word been crashing for you?
He has edge problems. I got edge locked up on the other day.
Edge doesn't
Couldn't
close
get rid of it.
Word was no function.
So I'm off of edge.
yeah. Okay. You've done some practicing yourself. Now I think you just need to practice a couple of different things on the projector. So my last big task, and I apologize if you wanted 50 minutes of wonderment and you're only going to get 25 to 35, but thinking about transitions where you're going to click, are you going to carry your keyboard with you or not? I actually have gotten used to the idea that my keyboard's somewhere in the front, and at times I just reconnect it to type something and then put it right back. It's not as difficult as you might think. It's not that difficult. We talked about how you're going to hold, are you going to rotate your screen and stuff like that. Now I'd like you to just have practiced projecting to this projector. So I'm going to show you how I get there, and then you can kind of do it yourself. We can only go one at a time. So if this isn't worth your 12 minutes to wait for your turn in line, that's up to you. But there's a lot of ways to get to projecting. The easiest way is probably swiping from the right and getting to the action center. And the action center is where you get to project. Project is also where you're going to, in your office, decide whether or not you want to extend your desktop along the 2 screens, clone the displays, and other things. On your screens, you should have where it says connect to a wireless display. And by default, you should see this EB, ED, etc. Right now, that's the name of this Epson projector. So right now, I have it so that mine is connected, and I put it on duplicate mode. You could technically project on a screen and extend this to that. For me, that's beyond what I can handle as far as you get the idea. So I'm going to disconnect, and Boggins, you can go first. So just so you can count and kind of see the time with it. So I just disconnected. It's completely off. Pete went in. Sometimes I had to click twice. You're not actually on what I'm looking for.
There it goes.
I don't think this is going to be Pete because he does not have the EBED.
Mine was going towards it, so.
Oh, so maybe you're the one that's overcoming it. So for me, this takes anywhere from.
No, I was connecting as well.
Okay.
So, you find out when more than one people try.
If you're the one that's trying to connect to it, or you clicked on it on accident, you can disconnect or do other things with it. We actually have 4 of you that are doing the same thing at the same time.
So I went in, I was in Moodle, and I looked up this, I just clicked this PDF copy of the social studies chapter, table of contents, helps us do a block. How do I get to look at it through the draw PDF? It just opened up there, as a.
Sorry, I was kind of listening and watching.
So
too.
I
Yep.
clicked the link in Moodle to open this PDF. It's
Sure.
opened in, kind of an online.
Sure.
How do I get to that draw board?
You'd have to download it somewhere. So I would go here, download, save it, that kind of idea. I don't know who.
Now it finally showed. Oh.
Actions.
So this is the danger of demoing thing when all of you have the ability. You actually have to take. So I'm just going to talk through what Pete is. You have to connect to it. It says connecting. Let it be.
Yeah, ours will say try and connect at your device again.
Right. just click. So this is Pete's screen.
It's there.
Okay, in order to disconnect, you can close your screen, or you can swipe from the right, go back to that project area. This is for Pete, not for everybody else to do. And then for you, just that connect to a wireless display, and then you will have the option of disconnect. Okay, I don't really know who should be first or next. Okay, Pearson, you want to try it?
Yep.
Go for it.
Connect to a wireless display.
Yep. If you have this on, yep, and then you want the EB, whatever. Okay, now while he's doing that, I'm going to say one more thing, and then I think if you don't need to see it, if you're setting this up on a TV, what you're going to have to do on your TV is it needs the dongle, and your TV will have to be in the correct video setting. So for example, it uses one of your HDMI ports, so if you put it into HDMI 1 or 2 or whatever you have, when you turn on the TVs in those bigger rooms, you actually have to hit the video button to get to the correct. So if it's automatically on TV, it might have to go to HDMI 2 or 1 or wherever it is. When that's at the correct spot and your TV is on, when you swipe from the right, you'll see it as an option for projecting to a wireless display. Okay, Dan.
Does this talk through Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, or something different?
It is neither of them. It's more, yeah, I don't even know what I would say it's more like. I guess I would say it's,
So the if the Wi-Fi goes out, it's still wireless to project.
yeah.
So then
we'll
enter this PIN code in our classrooms then?
I don't even know what, I don't know why it's asking for that. I've never seen that before.
What's your website? Instead of.
It asked for that PIN code, and there was a PIN code that popped up there.
Oh, was there?
So I entered it.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's all right.
I've never seen it, but sure.
That's what I was just curious if we're gonna have
If
to
you had-
enter that in our classrooms.
I've never had to. It almost is like you had less power than somebody else. I'm gonna have somebody else project to it
Okay.
because I don't see yours.
PC system settings.
You wanna just get out of here?
Sure.
Try system settings.
Thank you, James.
Yep.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I don't think I'm able to get to my options there, just I'm swiping from the right side.
So if
Is there
this,
something I'm,
right, so if yours closed, if you can't do it, then you actually have to just restart your computer, and it'll be there because you can't even. I've had this happen on my computer too, where you can't even click down here; it doesn't do anything.
is that your option there or swipe
Yep.
from the right?
Right. If neither of those work, then you'd have to restart. If you just needed to
By
get
restart, you mean like a hard restart, not
Just-
just complete?
right,
Okay.
go here, power, restart. You can get to your settings by just typing in settings, and you can get there.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well,
Yes.
My room needs a dongle, but my room, you said the new ones there.
needs a dongle in the projector.
Those new rooms last, you still need a dongle.
In the projector in the HDMI spot. Because I've done this in your room. I've done this in the science room.
So the dungeon rooms have the dongle?
The dungeon rooms need them. I don't. So your follow-up question is going to be, will they? I don't. I'm going to guess the answer is no unless you ask. Well, I don't think you have to think that hard, but yeah. Are you going, Matt?
No, but I can.
I just.
Oh, okay.
Did it ask you for a PIN number?
It hasn't.
It shouldn't, but because that's not a PIN number. That's just my name that I had for it.